Good evening. My name is Angela Berry, and I will be doing a general major laparotomy set mock-up tray with you all today. So, starting at the top, I've laid the instruments all out in order, somewhat. The retractors I put in the middle just because they're a little bit bulkier. But we're gonna start at the top. We don't have everything we need for the mock-up tray, but it is important before starting to put your tray together that you make sure you have all your needs. You make sure you have your everything that's on your count sheet matches what you're doing. You spread it out. That way you can do visual inspection and go from there. Okay, so we are starting off first in the general major laparotomy set. We have the number 3 knife handle, which is here. So we know that this is that knife handle. So the knife handle, normally we just check it to make sure it's free of debris, any kind of little serrations, anything in the tools. We want to make sure there's no bioburden, there's nothing in between it. So if we got that together, we will check it off. Okay, so then we know we're missing ones. So we'll indicate any missing instruments, we'll mark 1. Okay, next we have the number 7 knife handle blade. Again, we're picking it up, we're inspecting it, it's looking good. Moving on, we now have the DeBakey standard right here. And so another thing too is right in the middle of serrations, sometimes there'll be black or old blood that'll be caught in the teeth. We need to make sure we check for that. Next we have what I like to call the grippers, but they're tissue with teeth. Now, we have to make sure that when we are testing these, they line up just like that. And you should hear that noise. Okay? Then we have the Adson with teeth, also known as pickups. Mr. Ferris Smith. We also need to make sure you're checking off your instruments as you go along. Now, we don't have the number 3 knife handle long. We're missing that. We have the DeBakey standard. We do not have the DeBakey long. We have the tissue forceps with teeth. We don't have 2 of them, so we're missing 1. The Adson pickups with teeth, we're missing 1. The Ferris Smith, we have everything. Now we're moving on to bell clips. Unfortunately, we don't have any bell clips in the plan. So, towel clips non-penetrating. So, next you have a stringer. Now, I didn't care for the stringer that came with the kit, so I brought some stringers that I had from work. So, the towel clip non-penetrating, which will be this one. And the reason why it's non-penetrating, because in the penetrating, this one has sharper teeth. This one is more of a blunt force. So we're gonna go ahead. You're gonna check the teeth and the jaws. Always open up every single instrument. You're gonna go ahead and string that down first. And you're gonna take the penetrating towel clip and string that second. Okay? And we'll leave that there. The next that we have on the list is the mosquito. Okay, and the mosquito is also referred to as a Halstead. It's a very small version of a cryo. So again, I'm checking the jaws. This one feels a little stiff. Now, normally if I was at work, I would have lubricant to make it a little glide a little easier. So we're gonna go ahead and string that. The next we have is a Kelly clamp curved. Now, here's tricky. Kelly and cryo always look the same. The only difference is a cryo is shorter, a Kelly is longer. Can you zoom in? See the differences? Very small, fine differences. Okay. All right. So we're doing our Kelly clamped curved first. Okay. Next on our count sheet, it calls for Kelly straight. We don't have that. So then we have a crowd curve that's next. And the crowd curved is the one I told you about right here, the shorter version of the Kelly. Kelly is also referred to as peon. Next, we have the Babcock. Checking to make sure. String that Babcock. The next, we have an Alice. Again, a little stiff. The next one we have is a Coker. Now, this Coker is technically a curved. The count sheet doesn't really specify. Most count sheets will say curved or, you know, whatever it's supposed to be. But unfortunately, this count sheet just says Coker. Typically, you do not use curved Cokers. They are typically straight, but they do have the teeth right here. But we're also going to be doing the same thing, checking those instruments, stringing along. The next instrument that we're doing is called a Schnitt, also referred to as an Adson clamp. The next one we're doing is a Carmalt. I'm not familiar with these ones. I don't work with them too often. I believe Carmalt may be something that obstetrics use a little bit more. I'm not 100%, but a Carmalt is different because the serrations go left to right. Or what is this, horizontal? They go horizontal versus the typical vertical. And if you can see inside of the jaws, okay? So we'll string that next. Okay, the next instrument we're going to string is the right angle standard or mixer. That would be this guy right here. Again, it's called, sometimes they call them a Gemini right angle. I've heard of those. They also have an ENT mixer, which is a small 5.5 one. We string that, okay. Now, the next calls for goulet retractors. Unfortunately, goulet retractors we do not have in the set. Pro Bang, which is the ring forceps. I can tell you they don't use the name Pro Bang. It's usually sponge stick or ring forceps, or slightly curved or curved ring forceps. Pro Bang is not really a current name. I know it's technical, but not current. So again, we'll be opening the ring forceps, checking inside of the serrations to make sure there's no debris. Okay, next we'll be moving to the other page. We're gonna go ahead and just flip that over. Okay, so we have the Alice long, we do not have in the set. The Coker long, we do not have in the set. The Carmalt long. So all of these we do not have in the set, fortunately. Now we get down to the needle Mayo Hagar. The Mayo Hagar, we do not have the 5.5, but we have the 7. So the 7 is pretty much, a Mayo Hagar is typically pretty fat right here. It's thicker. It's a heavier needle holder. A Cryo is more slender. They do have cryo wood needle holders. So we're going to open that up, check those serrations, and you see those little dips in there. I like to think sometimes that's how you're able to distinguish the difference between some of the other needle holders. Kind of like alligator jaws. We go ahead and we will string that. Next we move on to the curved Mayo, which is on the count sheet here. So the curved Mayo, which is a pretty thick scissor. The nice thing about Mayos are they just kind of just one quick, swift cutting motion. So we go ahead and string that. And then we have what I love, one of my favorites, the Metzenbaum. It's a short Metzenbaum. Technically, to me, this would be 5.25 inch length. They do have the 7.5, and they also come in super cut, which are technically called Jameson or tenotomy scissors. Those both come in super cut. The tips are what you're able to distinguish the difference in the Metzenbaum. This is actually curved. Most of the Metzenbaum do come curved. So we go ahead and string that. That concludes our stringing. I also went ahead and got a pan so I could give you guys a better visual. When you're done with it, this is how you will put the stringer in your pan. Now, we're gonna move on to the retractors, which are my favorites. Okay, so we start with the Army Navy retractor because we have both sets of those. These are the Army Navy retractors. These are very common in general minors. They come in a lot of sets. They're used a little bit more frequently, even in gen plastics, lap tissues. They're a pretty standard retractor that most doctors prefer to use, especially in my department. So you're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna bring my pan over a little bit more so you can see what I'm doing. So you're gonna go ahead and lay that retractor in there, just like that. Okay, the next retractor that you're gonna use is a Richardson Small. That will be this guy. Now this often gets confused with a, what is the name of that? Appendiceal, which is another retractor, except it's narrow and long. So you're gonna go ahead and lay that in this pan. And then you have the wide deaver. So something that goes inside and retracts, it holds something open. So this would be considered like a manual retractor. So you go ahead and you lay that nice and neat in the pan. Okay. Then next you have your malleable. Your malleable, I don't see these in a lot of pans, just in a general major. There's one more pan they're sometimes in. I know some of the malleables I've seen are usually insulated, black malleables. They're very short. So this one, I don't work with too commonly, but this is your malleable. This is considered, we typically measure them down on our tables, and they will tell us the exact measurement, like 1 inch, 2.5 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch. So it gets pretty technical, especially if the doctor needs a specific measurement. Go ahead and put that in there. Okay, and next we are gonna be doing the yank hour. And I forgot to incorporate the book. The yank hour suction tip. Okay, and that's this. Now, normally these come disposable, but when they come on the clean side, always, you see that that's a lumen. So you need to make sure you're putting a brush and flushing on your end. And also, something I've experienced in the past, the tips come off. Sometimes there will be debris stuck inside of that hole in that tip. So you need to make sure you take a small brush and just kind of spin it around to indicate that it's free of blood or bioburden. And you go ahead and you screw it loosely back on. So that way when the steam hits it, it's getting in there. And you can go ahead and safely place that in the pan. Next, another suction we're going to talk about is the pool suction tip. This one I don't work with too often as well. The pool suction tip is actually 2 steps. It comes out. So again, another lumen. So you need to make sure you're brushing and flushing, especially with this one, because I know blood and pieces of skin tend to get stuck inside of there too. So sometimes you have to bang it out while you're in decontam. Also right here is another common area where skin and debris get caught in. Make sure you flush and you brush in the back and in on the clean side just to give it that extra. Typically, I don't put my pool suction together. I don't, not in the pan. I'm going to trust my gut and leave it separate. The next is the Fraser suction tip right here. Okay, so the Fraser suction tip, again, is another mechanism of suctioning. Usually the measurement, this is a 10 Fraser suction tip. It's usually measured from here to here, which is how they're determining the width, the sizing, where they get the number 10 from. I think it's actually from here to here. So again, another lumen inside. Needs to make sure you flush and brush on the clean side. We go ahead and put that pan in there. And then after you're all set, normally there is a small popcorn bag, we call it. And you put your items in there. You go ahead and place everything gently in the corner. Definitely don't want to set these instruments, these heavy ones, on top. So we just want to adjust it. And thus we have our general major laparotomy pan. Thank you.